has always been one of shake a hand and the deal is done. It doesn't matter if it's $1 million or whatever. The contract is a contract, but it doesn't mean anything. What it really means is what you give your word for.
Hello, and welcome to Life with a Lama Healer, where we're sharing the extraordinary stories about the remarkable life of Lama Gangchen Rinpoche. So today our guest is Yogesh Madhvani, and I've known Yogesh for over 25 years. He's a very successful businessman with his office in New York City, and he has had offices in Asia as well. And he is a businessman who really incorporates spiritual values into his business. And we'll hear some of those stories and values that he incorporates and how that has guided him in his business through all the ups and downs that everyone faces in business and in life. And someone who grew up in a family that had very strong spiritual values, and that's guided him throughout his career. And he met Lama Gangchen in the 2000s in New York City when Lama Gangchen came to have a interfaith dialogues for peace at the United Nations, and then also to give some teachings. And it was actually in my apartment building where we had a gathering, and Yogesh came with his wife, Nili. And so he'll share some stories about how Lama Gangchen has impacted his life. So please welcome Yogesh Madhvani. We're really excited about this podcast about the life of the great Tibetan Lama, Lama Gangchen Tulku Rinpoche, who was born in 1941 in Tibet and trained by many of the greatest Tibetan masters. He traveled to the West in the 1980s, bringing with him the inner peace teachings of the Buddha. Lama was one of the greatest living humanitarians and spiritual masters of our time, and part of an unbroken lineage dating all the way back 2,500 years to Shakyamuni Buddha. So our vision in creating this podcast is really to preserve and share the remarkable stories about Lama Gangchen's extraordinary life. We'll interview senior students and longtime followers who worked with Lama Gangchen, traveled with him, studied with him, witnessed and experienced his incredible healings and miracles. So these stories, they're really precious jewels and inspire us to really see what's possible when we follow the inner peace teachings of the Buddha. So it's a real honor and privilege to bring these stories to you and the methods that really help us to reframe our sufferings, which brings us more inner calm, the ability to be more in the present moment with less stress and anxiety and fear, and to experience more joy in our life and more peaceful in our life and more meaning really in our life. So please stay tuned for our conversations from this very, very rich spiritual heritage coming out of Tibet and the incredibly joyful, inspiring, mind-blowing, funny, touching stories about the remarkable life of a Lama healer, our beloved Lama Gangchen. Life with a Lama healer. Welcome, Yogesh. It's really wonderful to have this opportunity to have this conversation with you about life with a Lama healer and your relationship with Lama Gangchen. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for suggesting it. I've been looking forward to it. And my wife, Nili, and I have been talking about Lama Gangchen a whole lot more. We give thanks to him in the morning and we think of him, but now this allows us to talk a little bit about him more so than just thinking of him.
Yes, you're welcome. Sharing the stories is really powerful. It represents the way he touched our lives in such a deep way. So please tell us, how did you meet Lama Gangchen?
We met with you, Lelia, and we right away felt his aura, his sense of power, and yet tranquility around him and peacefulness. There was so much presence. And then, of course, we came to Albignano.
Yeah, you were in India, and then you came to Albignano with Nili, with your wife, right?
Yes.
And what year was that, Yogesh?
That was 2007. And it was not the trip we expected.
Didn't you first meet him in New York?
Yes.
Because you live in New York City and I was living in New York City at the time, but he came for a series of UN meetings and some teachings.
Yes, when he came for the UN meetings. And then we also had that nice reception you
Oh,
had.
that's right. In my building in New York. Yeah. I love what you said because he had this incredible power and then at the same time, this incredible peacefulness. It was an incredible combination.
Almost a yin and yang, as they say. It is cliched, but totally there, all in one person.
Yeah, I always said he was like my mama and my papa and my best friend and my teacher all in one.
Yeah.
Because he always took care of everyone who came to him and he was always helping everyone. You know, if you needed the mother energy, like you said, the yin energy to hug, he was always hugging everyone. Then also the father energy. And he also could be quite tough if there was something he wanted to teach us. Yeah.
So I didn't get a chance to see any of that. All I saw was his blessings and his love.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's all we experienced. Especially, he welcomed everybody, but yet you felt special when you're with him. Then when we came to the retreat in Italy, and I almost died.
Yes.
And
he saved your life, right?
Yes, he did.
Incredible.
And it was thanks to him being there and all of you being there that got me to a hospital in time when I had 30 minutes to live. And then the month that I spent there, I still have the crystals that he gave me to keep near my bed. And I still have them with me every day. Keep them nearby.
His energy is close to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without his blessings, without everybody's prayers and the chanting and everybody's thoughts allowed me to come back to life.
I'll never forget that day when you were in the hospital and he came in and I think Nune was there and maybe one or two other people, Shell, Nili was probably there too, and Anu, your son and his wife. And Rinpoche said, open the window. And we opened the window and all of us felt this. Do you remember this breeze? It was this incredible breeze that came into the room and circled all of us. And I said, oh my, this is the holy beings. These are like angels coming in. It was such an incredible experience. We all felt it, right?
Very much. Yes, very much. I also felt when I went to the hospital and I saw all these beautiful women looking after me.
Yes, right. Italian style.
Then I was surrounded by angels, different kind of angels.
Exactly. I drove behind the ambulance. The roads in Albignano are very narrow. Yes. And the ambulance couldn't get into the road to the hotel where you were at.
Yes.
And plus the hotel didn't have an elevator. And you were up on the top floor in the suite. So they had to take you down on a stretcher in this ancient Italian building. And then, so I followed the ambulance to the hospital. And when we get to the hospital, these two female doctors come out who were absolutely gorgeous.
Yes.
And I said, oh, there's these two dakinis. They're taking care of Yogesh. She's in great hands.
And despite all the pain and all the suffering and everything, I remember telling Nili, look at how beautiful they are.
Yes. How can I suffer? That was incredible. And everything was so relaxed in the hospital. They were just so relaxed. And from what I observed, totally took care of you. That was Lama's blessing that he
totally
oversaw that whole thing. Yeah. So tell me, what was that experience like, having someone like him taking care of you in a life-threatening situation? Did that change your attitude about your life, or how did you relate to that?
Yes. Grateful, thankful, never realized I was mortal.
I'm Yogesh the king, right? Your name means king of yogis, doesn't it? Yeah, so you were the king. Thought yourself you were the king.
So it brings you more awareness of how things can change so rapidly, and it wakes you up. Also, I'm not much into the scriptures or into theology or into reading heavy spiritual work. I'm not into that. I enjoy the chants. I enjoy the prayers. I give my own prayers every morning, every night. And I just feel that sometimes people are just put off by, to understand Buddhism, and you need to understand whatever religion. Yes, you should, if that's really what brings you peace, if that's something that makes you more aware, just be the best person you can be and follow your thoughts peacefully. So that definitely got me more into prayers and into thankfulness and awareness.
And Lama Gangchen was so special in this way that he met us where we are. You're a very successful businessman in New York City. You have a really busy life. You travel around the world with your work, and you have all these employees to take care of, and your family, of course. So he always met us where we were. He didn't say, okay, if you want to become a spiritual person, or if I'm going to help you, you have to, sit in a temple and pray all the time, or like you said, read the scriptures. He met us where we are and then helped us in whatever our profession was or whatever our lifestyle was. Don't you think?
Right. As I said, very inclusive. Not all the no's that one hears sometimes. Don't do this, don't do that, don't be that. Just be what you can, be the best you can be.
Yeah. And was there any kind of teachings or just the way that he was that influenced you, that you bring with you throughout your day? Something that he taught you, a way of being?
I think the most important thing that he taught me was to be grateful. Grateful for the people in my life, grateful for what I've been given, and grateful for what I can give.
Yes.
There wasn't a structure that he had to go by.
Yeah. No formula. He just met us where we were. I'll never forget when I first met him. I was actually studying to be an interfaith minister, studying all the faiths and philosophies because I was very interested in this. And I went through this internal dilemma. How do I embrace a spiritual life when I love to go to get dressed up and go to the opera in an evening gown and wear red lipstick? And many of the people that I saw who were following a spiritual life really didn't look like me. And I wasn't going to wear Birkenstocks and not shave my legs. But Rinpoche, he really showed me how to integrate this spiritual life with who I am, who's my personality and what my lifestyle is. And I think he did that for you too, right?
Yeah, and be joyful while you're doing it.
Yeah. It doesn't have to look a particular way. Yeah, really beautiful. So tell me, I know that you grew up in India and you grew up with a spiritual master living on your property, right?
Yes, we actually had a very mixed upbringing because in boarding school, I would go to the Anglican church and sing hymns and pray on the weekends at the church. And every morning we'd have hymns in our boarding school before we started the day.
Oh, really? Okay.
And study the scriptures. And the other hand, when I'd be home, we would have a special residence that was set aside for Ma, Anandmay Ma. And when she was there, we were there from 5 o'clock in the morning, chanting prayers, listening to the discourses.
Your family and her in the village also?
Oh, yes. The village was invited to come in and share. There was a big structure built so that 500 or 1,000 people could sit there.
Wow. Wow. And this was on your family's property?
Yes. So we had a pretty large with factories and land and all that. And then we would serve lunch and there'll be prayers throughout the day and chanting. And my grandmom and my parents and our family would go to different temples and visit the different holy Hindu places. Every time we were home, there'll be some trip to some pilgrimage to some different temple or some different area.
You had this interfaith upbringing,
Yes.
right?
Yes, exactly.
How beautiful is that? Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
I don't think we talked about this before.
No, I don't remember you saying when you were in boarding school that you had these hymns. Yeah, how beautiful is that? Wow. So did those two influences, the prayer and the chants from the Christian faith and then from the Hindu faith, you grew up in India, so it was primarily Hindu, right, in your village?
Yes.
Yeah? How did those values from those traditions guide you in your life?
A big part of it, growing up in our Hindu culture with a large joint family, was respect. Respect for the elders, respect for the people that work with you, because a big part of what the Hinduism is about a peacefulness and a gentleness. And so you see your father talking a certain way, and it's taught, of course, in our teachings and the Christian teachings as well. Taught me to treat people with respect and to spend time every day in some kind of a reflection, whether it be prayers or just thoughts.
Quiet, being to be quiet.
Right.
So this has been a lifelong practice for you to make sure you have this reflection time.
Yes.
It's really beautiful. Many, especially young people, they're forgetting to do that because we're so addicted to our phones. It used to be times you'd go and walk in nature or you walk on the beach. I live on the beach and you walk down the boardwalk and half the people are on their phones. They're not
Right.
even looking at the beach. Or you'd be waiting for a train and you talk to someone or you just reflect on something. Now our noses are in our phones.
Right.
So it's really beautiful that you've kept that as a lifelong practice.
Every morning, even now, whether just Neil and I sitting or all of us are sitting together as a family, there's a quiet time. There's a quiet time that allows us to reflect.
And as a CEO of a company and living in New York City, working and living in New York City, which is constantly filled with noise, is this reflection time really help to recharge you or to rejuvenate you?
It definitely does. It prepares, first of all, in the morning, it prepares me for the day. And you know how it is in our office or any Manhattan office. It's a lot of people in a space. It's beautiful where we are, but still a lot of interaction happening constantly. We're not a remote work environment. We have 100% of the people in every day. And just having started the day off at peace, the rest of the day easy to handle with everything that's thrown at you in a normal day.
Yeah. So starting the morning with that frame of mind of peacefulness and reflection. And do you incorporate meditation into your practice as well?
Just a few minutes a day.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that I need to do more, which I feel would help me greatly. Shell does it. My son does it. My younger son, Neil, does a lot more of it. And it helps me the few minutes. I think something a little more often in the day, maybe just 5 minutes in the afternoon would help even more.
Yeah. Even just 5 minutes is so helpful. Just to be able to reframe situations and quiet the mind, quiet the nervous system too.
Right.
Yeah. So tell me, do you have a story that you could share with us of something that really stood out in your mind that was really remarkable about Lama? Maybe a conversation you had with him or an interaction you had with him?
Italy that was most powerful. Him coming and visiting and praying together. And even the first day of the retreat, when I didn't know I was not well, just being there in his presence and listening to him. I think that was a very powerful memory. I still see him every morning sitting on his, what we call a gatti, meaning I'm not calling a throne,
Yeah.
but it's like a throne.
Is that a Hindu term, Guddhi?
Gatti. Gatti means
Guddi.
basically a mattress. It could be a mattress, but it could be also like an elevated place to sit.
Yeah, seeing him sit with that power and then also that peacefulness too, right?
Exactly.
I remember also your wife had a really moving experience with Lama, really strong connection. Can you share anything about what Nili's experience was?
She actually wrote out a few things
Oh, okay.
that she wanted me to mention.
Wonderful.
The prayers and chanting with the whole congregation was so uplifting with Lama looking down upon us all. It felt like a family. It felt when we were there that we were part of a big family overlooked by a special being. It was very much like being in front of a presence that was powerful. She wanted me to make sure I said that.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And I remember when you came back from Italy that Nili said, "Oh, I really want to go on some retreats." And then she found some silent retreats to go on.
Oh, yes. After that, she started following Vipassana a lot. And she went there for the retreat and also as a volunteer.
Yeah. So that was a good path for her through the Vipassana.
Yes.
Oh, very beautiful.
Which is based on Buddhist teachings.
Yeah. Well, actually, what Lama taught the Vipassana, all three levels of the path, the sutras, the Mahayana, and the Vajrayana.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Rick, my husband, he loves just very simple Vipassana meditation, focusing on his breath and some sounds, some simple mantras. Other people like more active things, like the self-healing or some of the other yoga tantra practices they relate to. And we all have our personality. And also the things that in this lifetime we're working out, that we're evolving and hopefully transforming.
Yep. Every
And our
day.
angers or our impatience or our anxieties or fears or whatever it is, and each practice has a particular way to help us, right?
Every day.
Yeah. I know when we were working together, we did some meditations together with your whole team. Does your team ever get together and do meditation together? Because
No,
most of your people who work for you are Indian, right?
yes. We've had Russian, we have a Burmese person right now, along with the Indians that have always been a part of our company. But now we have two people who are our social administrators, I would say. The Nili, of course, then Alpa and Amit, to find any excuse to celebrate all together
I love it.
as a company. To make sure there's music on. I like quiet. I like having a atmosphere that's without noise. But now I have to come into my own room and close the door instead of sitting with everybody at times
You're
because
listening to music.
because it's not just the music, it's a very celebratory. All of a sudden today I was told it's Mother's Day tomorrow, so we're going to celebrate Mother's Day. And
Oh, beautiful.
so they were looking for an excuse. It's all
Yeah.
but it's more
Yeah.
of a celebration and more of a joyfulness, and work still gets done, surprisingly. It
Yeah.
gets done pretty
It's
well.
good for the morale, right? And productivity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Joy is a big thing that helps to bring a team together.
Yes. And keep
Yeah.
the team.
And keep the team together, right?
Right.
It's easier to work a long day if it's joyful.
Right.
Yeah. Every time my husband saw Lama Gangchen would say, relax and enjoy. Relax your mind, because Rick's a workaholic and an overachiever. So he was always working. And so really learning how to relax his mind, relax his body, all the pushing, all the stress, the anxiety that we all experience. And then really learning to enjoy
Right.
his life, enjoy our life.
Right.
And so those two simple words, but they're so hard to do, really relax the mind. And I know so many clients who they go on vacation and they're still working the whole time. So they're not even relaxing and rejuvenating. So this joy is really powerful. So it's really beautiful to hear that you've created a culture of joy.
Partially forced on me.
Well, maybe that was Lama Gangchen's blessing for Nili, and then she's the culture queen at your company, right? Yeah.
Right. Then she has two people in the company who really take it forward and make sure it's implemented, the moments together.
Yeah, beautiful. I've known you for 25 years now, 20 plus years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
long time. And I've always witnessed you to be someone who really keeps very strong values of relationships, treating people with respect, always going, if it's an important meeting, to be face to face, not doing it through texts or emails. And that personal connection and the integrity of that personal connection in your relationships, I've witnessed always to be really important to you.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Yeah. So can you tell me those values that you said you grew up with, those spiritual values, has that been a guiding force in those values that you have in your business?
Definitely. And I was fortunate that my father looked after the whole family, even though he was sick for a number of years with cancer, not just myself and my brothers or my mother, but the whole extended family. So that was something that we saw growing up. And then I had my ex-partners, but also at that time we were partners for 20 years and we are still very close, even though we are no longer partners. But that culture also was of taking care with respect, the entire family and the team members were treated with respect and were allowed to grow and were taught. So I've just been fortunate to have these surroundings of people that have taught me so much and who I look up to today and try to follow and make sure that I respect their teachings and the way of life.
Part of the Indian culture is this way as well, right?
Yes, but it really depends upon the environment you grew up in. And having had the spiritual part and having had a family that taught me the value of family and having had partners who taught me the value of business people and doing everything correctly, ethically, not just legally, but ethically. So yes, that's been a part which I have to remind myself every morning still that may God give me strength to make this foundation stronger.
Chunga Chimbo Daini,
Shona Chempo Daini,
Semjen Dunga Tarjisho,
Senchen Duna Tajisho,
Kawachawa Samieso,
Kaba Cheva Sangisho,
Chodan Zinji Shuju,
Shoda Zinji Shogyuchi. Great sound of Dharma, eliminate the suffering of sentient beings. May it uphold the meaning of Dharma for inconceivable eons to come.
Damarani, the Parani, the Sambarani, the Savam
Buddha Chittapasalini Pranaparami Tananda Sabhava Benza Sataridaya Santo Kani Ho 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 Ho.
So, now you need your body sound with the speech sound. I'm picking, also other sound exists everywhere, but I'm picking this sound. It must be another singing bowl, more than mantra, more than meditation, giving something to sound.
Do you find, as being a successful business person in New York City with multiple cultures and ways of life that all meld into New York, and then also in the line of work that you're in, do you find that doing business in an ethical way and doing the right thing is becoming more challenging? Not necessarily for you, but because our society is becoming more degenerate, more violence, more divisiveness. We have leaders who are always criticizing other people and lying and cheating. I mean, we see this so prevalent in our culture.
Right.
So I'm sure it's influencing.
It's definitely here. It's definitely much more so because the culture in our business has always been one of to shake a hand and the deal is done. It doesn't matter if it's $1 million or whatever. The contract is a contract, but it doesn't mean anything. What it really means is what you give your word for. And yes, we have to be more careful today when we do business or interact with people to make sure we know who they are, not just what they claim to be, but their background, and choose not to work with the people we feel less than comfortable with. We are fortunate that we have that choice to not work with people that we're not comfortable of their being ethical.
Yeah. Have you ever had a situation where you were challenged with that?
This happens to all of us, and but it's easy just to forget about that and move on and not let it hold you back. It's not worth the effort, the negativity.
Yes.
It's easier to put it behind you.
Yeah. And I think it's easier to put behind you because you have such a strong foundation of these values, don't you think?
Yeah, I don't get shook up much. I'm comfortable making my own choices, comfortable with the choices I make most times, and not get too agitated.
Yeah. Stay true to who you are.
That's it.
What your values are.
That's it.
Yeah. It's really beautiful. I want to go back to what you said before about checking in and your morning prayers and reflection. I coach a lot of leaders, and when you're leading a group of people, there's always these kind of challenges happening over the years with the economy and with employment and so many factors. And those times when we're challenged, how do you, as a leader, rejuvenate? How do you tap into that inner wisdom? That's always a question that I find with many of the people that I work with, that at different times in your career or different times in your work that you're challenged. And then sometimes we let that challenge pull us in a way that takes us away from our core, our inner wisdom. So tell me about that, how you continually connect with your inner wisdom.
COVID was a major turning point for us, as with many people. And we didn't know what was going to happen, whether we'd have a business, who was going to buy anything and give terms. We have people who owe us money that couldn't pay us for months because their businesses were shut down. And at that time, it challenges your core and your belief, and it makes it very unsettling. Any picture, clear picture or opaque picture even, of what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think just coming to terms with, we're going to have to deal with this. It's like that class we took, chocolate or vanilla.
Chocolate or vanilla.
Choose what you want as long as you choose chocolate.
Yeah.
It's not like you have a choice.
Yeah.
Coming to terms with the fact that you don't have a choice. This is what you have. And
yeah. Are we going to make the best of this?
accepting that this is a reality today, to deal with it the best you can.
Yeah. During that time, I know you said that you, in the mornings, you always talk to Lama Gangchen. Did you feel that he was guiding you through that whole time? Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
Definitely. I just see him smiling down upon us, smiling and saying, be at peace.
Be at peace. So you felt his presence, that he was taking care of you.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. That's so beautiful.
Can't you just see him with his hand saying, be at peace?
Waving to you. Waving to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many stories of his presence. And actually, just the other day, I was going through one of my old computers in my office, and because I wanted to clean everything off and donate a couple computers that we don't use anymore. And I discovered these videos that I didn't even realize that were on this computer, these very short videos that I took the last trip I took to Tibet. And I had taken them in short clips, like 3-minute clips, 5-minute clips, so that I could share them. And I was looking at these and I went, wow, one after another. I couldn't believe I discovered these. I found these treasures, really jewels. And on this particular day, I really was missing Lama because I used to call him all the time. And on this particular day, I was really missing him. So then I discovered all these beautiful videos of him and our trip in Tibet. And then the last video, Yogesh, I open it up and he's looking directly at me. I have the video camera in front of me, right? Because I'm taking this video. It's in Gangchen Monastery in Gangchen, Tibet. And he looks at me and he waves to me. Oh my God. That was the last video I saw. I went, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
He left his body, but he's totally with us. Don't you feel that?
Very much.
It's so interesting. This friend of mine in Spain, he's known Lama Gangchen many years. And he said, there's been many people in my life who have left their bodies, who passed away, like everyone. He said, but Lama Gangchen is the only person in my life who left his body and I still feel his presence.
Definitely.
So beautiful.
Yes. We are blessed.
Is there any moment that you'd like to share about that was special for you in feeling his presence?
Through the toughest times, whatever ups and downs happen, and to be able to see him and visualize him just gives you strength to get through whatever it is that you're going through at that moment and knowing it will pass.
Yeah. Understanding the impermanence. That's a big teaching, right? Understanding the impermanence. Many people called Lama Gangchen, even many other high lamas, they called him the Buddha of the Buddhas. That's how high a being he was. I keep hearing all these stories from people around the world like you who say that you feel him and that kind of power, right?
Yes.
That he had or has.
And we get to enjoy it.
Yeah. So lucky.
Yes.
Was there ever a moment that you had this moment of awe when you were either in Italy or in New York or when you were in his presence? I love this word, awe. Is there a moment like that you could share with us?
When I was not well, just him being there and knowing that he was there to bless me and to make me whole. And he didn't have to say much, just his aura, his presence, so blissful.
Yeah, it was incredible how someone like that, many people have said that they would go to meet him and they would have all these questions to ask him about their life and some anxiety they were experiencing or some problems that they had in their life. And as soon as they sat down in his presence, they forgot about all that.
Right.
They just felt this peace come over them.
Right.
Right? Yeah. How beautiful is that? Very rare. Such an incredibly rare person. If you could describe 3 qualities about Lama Gangchen that were extraordinary, or 3 qualities that really stood out for you, what would you say those 3 qualities are?
Joy, peacefulness, inclusiveness, non-judgmental.
Yeah. And he was always that way. I saw him in so many different settings all around the world and was always that way for 27 years. And I love what you said that he didn't have a lot of words sometimes. Many times when we meet people, we think we have to fill up the space with talking.
Right.
And yet in his being, just who he was transformative.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly. That's all you need. You just need a feeling of peacefulness exuding from him that brought you at peace and smooths the way. Everything else falls into place in your thinking.
Yes.
And you take the right actions after that.
That's what you felt.
Yes.
You took the right actions after you were with him.
Right.
Wow, really powerful. Yeah, and it's very counter to modern society that we think that going to school and developing our intellect or developing our physical strength or our image, getting a bunch of degrees, that's what is going to really be the most important thing. And yet when we get to be around someone like Lama, who's a Buddha of the Buddhas, he spent lifetimes in meditation cultivating this inner peace and this inner wisdom. And so just, he didn't have to say anything. Just his presence made you peaceful, made us more wise. Completely different kind of training than what we grow up with, right?
Yes. And it reminded me of Anandema, the person, the holy teacher
Yeah.
that
She's
I
so
grew up,
beautiful. Remember reading about her.
and how she was in a similar way. I don't believe that there'll be too many people who would have had the spirituality and the meditation and the inbuilt strength that Lama Gangchen had. So you're special.
But you saw some of these kind of qualities in Anime Mao.
Anandema, yes.
Anime Mao. Yogesh, did you ever read the book Autobiography of a Yogi by Yogananda?
Yes, Paramahansa Yogananda. Yes, I read it many years ago. Yes.
Yeah. This book left such a profound effect on me. And not only because of what an extraordinary person he was. In his book, he talks about this period of time when he went to meet all these other yogis around the world and saints from different faiths and what kind of special powers they had. And many of them like miracle kind of powers. And there was one woman that he met in India who didn't eat. She didn't feel the need to eat. She lived off of this spiritual energy. And then, of course, the Christian mystics, where they had the stigmata that manifested on their foreheads or on their arms. And then there was another story of this saint who was in a carriage and going through the rice fields. And the person who owned the rice fields was whipping this man, one of the workers, and all his back was all bloody. And she was witnessing this, and she had so much compassion for this man that was being whipped that blood manifested on her back and marks manifested on her back as if she was taking this pain from this man. I mean, all kinds of these stories were in Yogananda's book. And it was so extraordinary to read these because in our modern society, we really don't hear about these kind of miracle powers that these saints had and these advanced yogis. And so one of the reasons why I wanted to share these stories in this podcast is people really don't read as much nowadays that they did when I was young or when you were young. And so listening to podcasts, I think, is an easy way for people to share these stories. And Lama Gangchen had this incredible capacity to do these, had these miracle powers. People healed of all kinds of sicknesses. And one time this woman came to the Gompa and she had this huge cyst on her hand, huge cyst. And she said, Lama, I've been to countless doctors. No one knows what to do to help me. And Lama he blew on her hand on the cyst. And the next day it was half the size. And 2 days later it was gone.
Incredible.
Incredible. So these kind of stories we really wanted to share so people see what's possible when one really follows the spiritual path, follows the Buddha's path, follows the path towards enlightenment, and then increase their faith in what's possible.
Very true.
The miracle of you going through what you went through with almost dying and then...
They gave me 30 minutes, remember?
Yeah.
So you can't go to the big hospital. You have to go to the nearest hospital. Otherwise, you're gone. And that, with his blessings, I came through the surgery, which they were not sure I would.
And you had no complications after that.
Right. Why did it happen when I was there?
Right.
It could have happened in India. It could have happened anywhere else where I may not have been taken care of so quickly and so well by all of you. And with his blessings and his power, why did it happen then?
There in El Mignano under his care. That also shows the clairvoyant power that Lama had because he knew you were coming because I told him you were coming, you and Nili. And he had remembered, of course, meeting you in New York. And he was so happy that you were coming and to have a holiday and do some retreat. So he obviously knew that through his incredible clairvoyance and then was able to hold off whatever you were going to experience health-wise to wait till you got there. Incredible. When my dad was dying, I was in Spain on a retreat with Lama. And again, with his incredible clairvoyance, he knew that my father was dying. I didn't know that. And he was in his 80s, he was on in life, but I didn't know he was in the last phase of his life. And so everywhere we went on that trip, Lama would hold up this picture of Ushni Shivaya, and I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. I always get a trip on that particular deity. It's the deity of long life. It's a very specific practice for long life. And he would hold that up in front of, so I could see it. He'd be standing there. We'd maybe getting off the bus, or we'd be going into the temple, and he'd stand there with this in front of him so that I would see it. And I said to a friend of mine after several days, I went, why is he always showing me this picture? He's always like making a point that I see this picture. And so fast forward, I come back to New York, and I get a call from my sister that dad's dying and you got to fly down to Florida immediately. So I go down, and the doctor said, oh, he actually almost died 1 week ago.
Wow.
But for some reason, he came back to life, and he is dying, but he's stable this last week. So Lama actually kept him alive so I could be with him.
Beautiful.
Incredible. A Buddha of the Buddhas, right?
Yes.
Who has that kind of power? Wow. So Yogesh, if you could give some advice to anyone who is a spiritual seeker or someone who wants to have a more peaceful, joyful life, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Be the best you can be every day. Just being there to reflect. It just doesn't need to be too complicated. It just needs to be something that brings you peace, but you have to work on it. It's not just, I want peace. You need to be able to be more mindful. Meditation is a scary word. People think, oh my God, I have to sit over there and be in a certain position and spend an hour a day.
Right.
No, you don't. You just need to be mindful for a few minutes. If it's 2 minutes, it's 2 minutes. It's better than nothing. Just practice mindfulness. I think it brings so much peace and opens the door to spirituality, which is whatever brings you peace at the end of the day. It's not some very big, mysterious thing. It's just something that allows you to be joyful and peaceful and grateful. And being mindful opens a pathway to those things.
The practice of mindfulness allows for one to experience more peace and gratitude and joy in their life. So we need to practice, right?
You need to practice. It's not a switch. You need to be aware, you need to be practicing, which will allow you to think for a few minutes at least of being more aware and being more mindful and spending those few minutes being grateful and appreciating and voicing what you're grateful for. Not just saying, I'm grateful. It's just, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my business. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for the beautiful people around me. Grateful for where I am, wherever that may be.
Beautiful. I'm grateful for you and our wonderful friendship that we've had for so many years.
I feel the same way.
And your beautiful family who I've had the privilege to know and work with. Yeah. And you're really an inspiration to me, someone has a fast-paced, busy, successful life and business. And in my observation over so many years, kept true to your internal compass and your inner values of integrity and respect and love and compassion. It's really an inspiration. Yeah,
thank you. And we owe a lot to your teaching, and we owe a lot as a family to your allowing us to come to grips with certain things that we were not willing to come to grips with, and teaching us, not just my wife, my sons, my daughter-in-law, myself, but our entire company at different times of the important stuff, being together, thankful, joyous, and making the right choices in life. Thank you.
Good partnership. And Lama oversees it all.
Yes.
How lucky are we?
Yes.
So I'm going to close with just a very short prayer in anticipation that he will come back soon, as is the way of the Tibetan way and the way of Lama Gangchen. For sure, he'll be reincarnated soon, and that we get to meet him again.
Yes.
We get to continue our journey together, right? And meet him again, or she,
right,
wherever he reincarnates as, right?
Hopefully we'll have the blessing to do so.
Yes. I pray for that all the time. So I make a dedication that at dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. And I'm going to just say Lama Ken 3 times. Lama Ken is the prayer that Rinpoche always said that whenever you need me, when I've left my body, whenever you need me, you say this prayer and I'll be there for you. Lama Ken, Chin Chin Sawe Lama Ken, Lama Ken, Lama Ken, Kabne Kutu Lama Ken. Come back soon, Rinpoche. We're waiting. Lama Ken. Thank you, Yogesh. And now the beautiful poem that our producer Jason wrote for Yogesh. I love this one. In a tapestry of faith, he weaves his life, a journey rich with lessons, free from strife, from Christian halls to Hindu prayers so grand, and with Lama's teachings he found solid land. Lama Gangchen's embrace, a beacon bright, guided Yogesh's steps through day and night. In business, joy was spread with every deal, his heart's compassion an eternal seal. A promise kept, a word that's true. In customers' care, his ethics grew. Surviving odds with Lama's blessings true, a testament to strength, to faith anew. Yogesh's path, a story of grace, a symphony of faith in every space. His life's a testament, a radiant light, guiding us forward through day and night. I'm really grateful that Yogesh came and spent this time with us today. What a beautiful conversation and what a beautiful story he has to share about Lama and the fact that Lama Gangchen actually saved his life, the time that he came to Italy. And something that is so remarkable about Yogesh and what he shared today, he's a very humble person, but he shared a little bit about it, but he has just a strong inner compass and stays really true to his values of respect and doing the right thing and really creating strong relationships with people. And something that was so remarkable about him when I first started working with him as his coach and consultant to his company, when we first signed our contract, he insisted that we meet face to face to sign the contract, that we would sit together, we would discuss it, we would sign it face to face. And he's the only client in my 30 years of doing coaching and consulting who insisted that we sit together, because relationships and that whole integrity of the relationship is so important to him. I find that so striking and really inspiring about him and his ability to weather so many different ups and downs in his business and life, but always come back to his inner compass and that inner wisdom that he has and that he really beautifully shared with us today. So I hope this conversation was inspiring for you, and please join us on our Facebook page, Life with a Lama Healer. And if you have a question that you'd like to ask us or any story that you would like to share, please go to lamahealer.com and you could share your story or ask us a question. And perhaps in the future, we would take one of your questions for one of our guests. And if you'd like more information about Lama Gangchen and our foundations and the humanitarian work that he did and what an extraordinary person he is, or our center in Italy, our retreat center in Italy, Brazil, go to the description and we'll have some of those links. And please share our podcast with your friends. And again, I hope this was inspiring for you as it was for us. And Lama Ken, thanks for joining us.